Hey folks, fWhip here, and welcome on back to the How to Build a Minecraft Base series. Today we are on part number 2, where we are building up this big old base over here. If you are excited for that one, click the like button down below. But folks, it's time to go back in time here and kick this off in a good old-fashioned time-lapse mode. Diving right here in the time lapse, we went back in time to the exact point where we ended the last episode, and I wanted to get started on this thing right away. I did struggle with this project quite a lot. I'm just going to start off by saying that as every Minecraft project, especially the bigger ones, sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to, and that's 100% okay. So you're going to see a lot of the process as we're going throughout here is I'm going to be tearing things down and rebuilding them, and that's not a bad thing. If you don't like what you have, you don't have to keep it. Nothing is forcing you to keep a certain block or a certain shape to a structure, whatever it might be. So I just want to start that off by saying it in here. Now you can see I went with a lot of white, lighter colors in here, being the diorite and white concrete powder. And then we're using a dark contrast with that being some blackstone as well as some basalt. I really love the colors that worked with this. And then adding in some andesite down at the base to help bring it into the wings that we're going to be adding on this build later on. I knew that I wanted to use some sort of a greeny blue color to work with all of this, so I used the stripped warp blocks because recently I've been obsessed with that block, if only it were easier to obtain. But I really like how it works out having that whole ring up there. I wanted to start by creating a central dome on the top point, and then creating some areas off to the sides that are going to mirror each other and build off of this large central structure that we have. So I was trying to think of a block that we could use alongside having the stripped warp wood in there. I like that kind of bluey green color that we started with. So you'll see here shortly that we start bringing a little of dark prismarine in at the top of that one. Wording is quite difficult today, but anyways, bringing a lot of the blackstone in here and then dark prismarine and bringing it in towards the center. I didn't really know what I want to do here, so I started out with the glass, and I tried a few different designs before I ended up with a final one that I liked. So I wanted to really show the process here of being a builder. It's not always perfect the first time that you make something, especially on this large of a scale here. You can see these things look a little rough. I tried many different ideas of having those going all the way around as supporting structures, tying them back into the dark prismarine that we had, and ultimately it just didn't work out. It wasn't the vibe that I wanted to go for. So we're going to be tearing it down and coming in here with more of a Greco-Roman inspired dome, something you might find in Atlantis or something along those lines. Just very mystical and magical, and reaching much higher into the sky. I felt like otherwise it just kind of had like a very flat little bump on top of it, where I wanted it to feel like a spire or a dome or just some grand structure soaring high into the sky above the village that we're going to be making. So coming back in here with all of the colors that we've been using so far, I wanted to continue on with those basalt pillars. I like that I had done first, and then I really liked having the stripped warp logs as well as the blackstone in there, so we brought a lot more of that stuff in here as well. Then coming around here, using a little bit of world edit, copying those shapes in here so we have almost a crown structure in here, then using a bit of warped planks on the inside to add a highlight underneath the blackstone, then using dark prismarine on the top. We're just going to be creating a little bit of a circle around here, filling in everything. And because everything's the same so far, we can just copy it around to the 4 different sides, and you'll see right there, bam, we got the whole roof completed like that. Mega structures is a lot about symmetry. I've found a lot about bringing builds in together and making it look very cohesive. So I feel like using world edit to copy things a little bit and move them around, at least in the planning stages of before we would go and build this in our survival world, is okay to do, and so I want to be able to do that in here. I also wanted to really go forward with that crown idea, so I added a lot more spikes on top of this, then extended that central one up even more, because otherwise it just felt a little flat. I figured we have almost a caked layered dome effect going on to that one with 3 different layers. Then, in order to make the central structure stand out even more, I didn't want to continue with the same white coloring theme that we had on the middle one. So over here we came in with some andesite, and then I'm going to be adding in a lot of light gray concrete powder because I wanted that to help shine out and make this thing a lot more interesting. Then in order for the roof to not peak up too much and go over the ledge that we had already created with that warped circle in the middle, is I used a bunch of slabs bring up here in the middle. And then on top of that, I was like, you know what? It's not quite where I want it yet. It's not quite at that point. So it's like, let's bring in another dome. That way we can have that tiered effect of creating a triangle. If we're going to have a smaller dome on each side, then the very tall dome in the middle, and they're all going to kind of lead your eye up to that central point and give much more of a grand feel to everything around us. We're trying to go very big and grand and very much the mega base feeling that you see in a lot of Minecraft things. You can see that gray concrete powder in there now, the light gray at least, with a bunch of windows inside of this one and a lot of cool stuff going on over here. Now I'm trying to remember how to world edit and flip something around and copy paste it over there, and bam, we've got it. Thankfully, they're going to be looking the exact same on the edges, so it's fine just to slap it over there and call it good. I absolutely love how this thing turned out. Now I want to give you all a slow pan there at the front before we check out anything further. Moving along to the back here, however, this one's going to be a bit of a smaller structure. It was meant to be more of the storage room of sorts for the build, so I wanted to go back to that wider color since it's very much attached to what we had. Now we've already defined a few assets for this build, being those smaller domes. So I was like, let's just bring them on here onto the back and almost give this much more of a castle feeling than anything else, and I really like that. So adding in a bunch of white concrete powder, and then the warp logs going all the way around and doing all that fancy stuff, and it's really starting to look super cool at this point in time. I love the contrast between all of the different colors that we're using. They just seem to work out really well in my opinion. I'm super excited about it, and I think it came out very well in the end. Then bring in another new roof shape for ourselves, again using the slabs, but trying to make it look a little bit more rounded, and actually having a little bit of a divot here in the middle. You're going to see right there with that little slab drop down. I really like that one. Then I finally figured that we have to have some sort of a backdrop to this. The base looks awesome at this point in time. We've got a lot of cool stuff going on with it, but why not add some trees? We can always add trees inside of Minecraft. They don't have to be custom trees. If you just add a variety of them, here we just did large spruce trees and regular oak trees, and it looks really cool. It gives a great feeling to the outside area and actually mixes up the terrain a little bit by adding that podzol into the ground. We've got the wheat field in the front showing it's very manicured and tame and controlled, and then we have the chaos of those trees in the background. It gives a really cool feeling to the mega base, especially since the base is actually taller than a lot of the trees. Here in the front of it, you can barely see the trees behind it, so it really gives it that massive feeling. Then how we can also make it feel even larger is by adding in the bit of the village here on the front, which we're going to be working on here shortly. I want to purposely make this village very basic. I didn't want to go too heavy in the detailing. I didn't want to do anything too extreme here, because that's going to take away from the detail that we decided to include on the mega base. So coming back here into the village, I just want to create some very basic structures, nothing too crazy going on, just adding a few more interesting roof bits and having them stretching all around the place and just doing a few things like that. Then I decided the size of the village, if we kept with all of these different houses, it was actually going to be a little too big here. So you'll see me taking out a few of those outlines for the structures that we had. And I want this to feel like a tiny little thing that you walk through and then you're quickly at the mega base. So taking out a few of them helped kind of control that more of just having the houses dotted along the roadway, instead of having everything so extreme and kind of stretching everywhere across everything. So having a few different ones in here really kind of helps add to that feeling of the base is just massive. The base itself, we didn't make too tall. Those side rooms are only about 7 blocks tall, and then the roof comes up to about 11 or 13 blocks or something like that. And so overall, if we have too tall of roofs in the village, it's actually going to make the mega base look even smaller. We could have put it up on a platform, but I didn't want to do that since I really wanted to stick with the plan that I'd showed in the part 1 video. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. You can definitely go check that thing out. Very worthwhile to watch. I hope you all enjoyed this one. I hope it was something that you could learn a lot from. If you have any questions on how to build a Minecraft, or concerns or things about building your own mega bases or stuff like that, please be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them and see what I can do. I've been really loving doing these concept videos of not direct tutorial videos, but things that I feel like can help everybody become their own best Minecraft builder or best Minecraft player in their own right, of however they want to do that themselves, just inspiring people to do that. So let's move on. The villagers down here seem to be absolutely loving their new spot to hang out in. I decided to not go ahead and detail too many of the buildings on the insides or anything like that, and I purposely left these buildings as pretty bland, pretty plain, and I didn't want to do too much with them because I didn't want them to take away from all the detail work we had done inside of this mega base, which I think looks absolutely insane. You can see over here we went for like a whitewash theme, and then with the dark colors being the basalt and the black stone, then a highlight strip using the stripped warp logs, and we got dark prismarine to help contrast that one. And then we're coming up here and just adding in more planks and everything else, and soulfire lanterns and sea lanterns, and oh my gosh, I absolutely love how this thing worked out. It turned out so well in my opinion. And as mentioned, I purposely left these things blank because this is where I want you all to come in. The interior of these structures are wide open and ready to go. And I know a lot of people love getting their hands on these things to be able to look at them and everything like that. And use them as an example to build their own base. Well, I figured that'd be really cool. So everybody who is a Twitch sub, patron supporter, or YouTube member will be able to get the download link, join the Discord, and you can get your hands on that thing there. I believe there's a lot of potential in this base. I added all of these open air roof areas. You saw me did quite a few different things as we transitioned throughout the time lapse of completely changing how the top central dome worked out, because it was rather ugly beforehand and I did not like it at all. And then I was like, you know what? We have an elytra. This is a mega base. We want this to be functional towards the end. So having an elytra and being able to just fly up out of here and out of one of these windows without hitting a lantern or the chains, if you are that much of a professional, I thought it would be kind of fun. So you can just take off from right there and fly up and go on out of this way to wherever you need to explore. And before I forget, I want to make sure I do this here. We're going to have the seed. There it is in the video itself. You can pause and grab it. I will try and throw it in the description too, because I know a bunch of people were asking about that one and wanted to throw that in here for you all. But I hope this video was helpful for how to build a base, what I think about the stuff going forward with building bases in Minecraft. So with that, my friends, click that like button down below if you have not already. Click that subscribe button if you're brand new. And with any further ado, my friends, I will catch you on the fWhip side.